So what do you think about, would you vote for, are you going to vote for?
Yeah, vote to keep in.
To leave? Or
no, keep in.
Okay, yeah. So, for which reason?
It's a lot safer with Europe than on our own.
The economy?
Well, economic security, just generally. It's much better, I think, to be in than out. It's a bit sort of retrograde step for the UK to try and go it alone these days.
Yeah.
It's a global world, so you've got to be part of it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are you going to vote? Are you
Yes.
for? Or will you vote to exit or to...
So voting for exit, but purely for sovereignty reasons. I want to keep freedom of movement of people. I want to keep trade as open as possible with Europe because I'm a big fan of Europe. I do a lot of business in Europe, but I don't think Europe's set up properly. So I think it's undemocratic. I think the bureaucracy of the European Commission is the wrong way to create new laws. So I would like to see Europe move in a federal direction, be clear who has responsibility for making which laws, and return to national governments what should be theirs, and give to a federal government what would work well centralised. But that means breaking up the current structure and reforming it in a more democratic way.
Yeah.
And for that reason, in order to instigate that happening, I would vote to leave, and I hope Europe then reforms in a sensible way that's good for the next 50 to 100 years.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are you going to vote? Are you for...
Stay in.
Sorry?
Stay in.
Stay?
Yeah.
Why? Can you tell me which reason?
I think the options are much better to stay in than they are to go out, aren't they?
Oh, I'm definitely Brexit.
Brexit, why?
Because I think that the European Union is undemocratic and it doesn't benefit the British people.
Do you think there could be disadvantage on that, on economic or...
There could be an economic disadvantage to Brexit.
Yeah.
There quite possibly could be, but I think that...
There is a big risk or no?
Sorry?
There is a big risk on
Yeah, the economic questions are kind of secondary to the whole... It's a question of sovereignty, of the British people being able to choose how their own country's governed, which doesn't really have anything to do with the economy. I think you can't really predict how it will go economically. There are arguments on both sides, and obviously for some people it will be an economic advantage, for some people it will be an economic disadvantage. Some people say that, for instance, we shouldn't vote for Brexit because it will lead to a fall in house prices. Personally, I'd like a fall in house prices. I'd like it to be easier for me to buy a house in London.
Yeah, but there are also some other, as you know, I guess London is the biggest capital, is about the World Trade Center, is the biggest one in the world, and is the most important. Probably London will lose the position of Trade Center. Oh no, do you think about that or no?
I mean, I don't know what evidence there is for that, but as I said, the economic advantages or disadvantages are really a secondary question. It's not about whether in the short term there's an economic upturn or downturn. It's about whether the British people can choose the laws and the people that govern them or not. And if we choose the European Union, we're choosing a system where we basically cede our powers and we can no longer choose our government or our laws.
So probably if Britain stay in Europe but they accept what Cameron asked for some exception on the law, to keep the British law the same as all instead of what you think?
I think it's not sufficient. I think the European Union is just a bad idea. We've got a halfway house where it would be brilliant if we just had a thing where people could come to England to visit for tourism without having to have visas, and we could have some sort of amicable relationship with Europe. But what we have is we don't have control, and that the European Union is basically designed towards the aim of producing a super state, which isn't really a feasible aim, where we're looking at something where you have written in to the very fabric of the European Union that we create a European super state, which isn't ever going to work because we're different nations. We have a certain cultural affinity which we should keep, but we're not one nation. We're different nations. We always historically have been, and trying to make us into one nation just isn't working. It's disastrous. People say we should stay in the EU and try and reform the EU, but if up till now we haven't been able to stay in the EU and reform the EU into a more realistic project, there's no reason to think if we stay in the EU we will then be able to do that.
What do you think about would you vote for Brexit?
I voted for Brexit, but nothing too heavy, nothing about being completely like England being by itself. I just
You voted already?
I voted already. I put my thing in the post anyway. Well, I think I filled it in, so maybe it's on its way in my flatmate's son. Either way, I ticked it, and I'm going just for Brexit for now, just to see if it makes a difference. But I'm sure it doesn't really matter which way it goes. Nothing really is going to change. I'm pretty sure.
What are the reasons for to leave?
Just because I'm British, but I haven't lived in England till I was 18. Pretty much, I was living in other places, and I kind of feel a bit proud and just be a bit patriotic about it. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be friends with everybody else and all the rest of it.
Do you think there would be any economical problem?
No, I think it's all hype. I think we're still going to be fine. I really don't. I think it's all got a bit much and it's a bit over the top. I think everyone's going to be fine afterwards. No one's going to be affected either way, I'm sure. But they'll make a mountain out of a molehill and say there's many reasons and problems and goods and bads, but I think it's no major difference at all.
No?
I think we'll all still be friends.
So,
nothing's going to be the same. It's not going to be the same tomorrow from yesterday, but I think generally we kept the pounds, and I'm just being a bit silly, because I'm a bit proud to be British. I kind of just want to see how we get on without everyone. But I don't.
Britain has still the pounds.
Yeah, we've still got the pound.
So
and there must be a reason why we did that. I'm not too sure, but I just feel like generally, I just want to see how it goes.
Just for democracy, that we can get rid of our government, but we can't get rid of the EU commissioners because we don't vote for them. It's easy as that.
So, what do you think there would be any side problem such as for the economy? What do you think about that?
Yeah, but democracy is more important than the economy.
Thank you. What do you think about you think would be good to
stay in?
Stay. Why?
I reckon you'll lose more than you'll gain.
Okay.
Naughty.
Thank you.
See how it goes.
And there's too many immigration coming in. That's the biggest problem. Anything else, it's all right.
Too many migrants.
Yeah.
So
No, I'm not against people coming from a different country, but the problem is it's going to bring down the culture. Too much competition for work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's not enough work to handle all that. I mean, it's going to be down. The money will not go up. Inflation is going up every year, so money is going to stay down. It's a problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the only problem I can see. Outside that, there's not really any other problem.
So
because the NHS is struggling for money. They don't have the money to cover the people for hospitals and everything, because there's not enough money. I mean, so there's not enough money going into the national health. So I don't know what the answer really is. You know what I mean? It's hard to say because I mean they're in Europe now, so I mean they're actually not going to go completely out of Europe. I think they're going to stay in Europe, but the thing is they're going to have to cut down on immigration and what do you call it? I mean, not transport, but you know, dealing with trading. They can still trade with these countries, but they can still be part of these countries, but you don't still have to be completely in Europe. You know what I mean? There's an in-between thing. By the people coming in. See, for the really big rich businessman, you know yourself, I'm just a working class person, probably you're much the same. But the really big businessman is a good thing in ways because it's an open market for employment. You employ somebody at cheaper cost from Europe, from somewhere like Romania or Poland. Their money is a complete difference to here. I mean, if you have a pound here, that same pound in Poland is worth £3 or £4 really. So I mean, for them to take a job here at £60 a day or £50 a day, that's no problem because there's nearly £200 in their country. So I mean, that's why there's 70% of the building in London. Nearly 80% is nearly Eastern European.
Yeah.
So where do we go from there? See, we're in trouble. Huh? You see, if it keeps going the way it is, there will be trouble. You know what I mean? Huh? So what do you reckon yourself then? From there, you get my point. It's not the point that people doesn't want immigration. It's just that they don't want too many people here because it's going to bring the money down all the time. The money will never go up because there's too much competition for the work. And I mean, if you can give a man, if you're employing a man, who are you going to employ? The cheapest man. Obviously, yeah. So where we go.
Are you going to vote or do you vote already?
I will be voting, yeah.
Sorry?
I will be voting, yes.
Yeah. For exit?
For out, I think I'm voting out.
Okay, yeah.
Because I think Europe has gone down the pan and I don't think they're going to lift themselves out of the mire.
Yeah. What else you think?
And there's a lot of corruption in Europe as well, I think. So and I think we'll be spending a lot more money in Europe if we stay. And to be honest, there will be a risk, but I think long term we'll be better off.
Yeah, what could be the risk for you?
But the economy will dip a bit, but I think long term we'll be a lot better off on our own.
Long term?
Yeah, maybe a couple of years.
Yeah. Do you think there could be any reason that a risk to leave?
There will be a risk, but I think long term we'll be better off.
Yeah, what could be the risk for you?
But the economy will dip a bit, but I think long term we'll be a lot better off on our own.
Long term?
Yeah, maybe a couple of years.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. You vote for leave or
to stay in?
To stay in.
Yeah.
Which reason?
Just seems to make sense. Seems to be the right approach. That's what I agree with.
Yeah. Thank you very much. You vote for stay in? Stay.
Yeah. Because staying is staying, isn't it? Yeah.
The economy will be better.
Yeah, much better. Everything is much better.
Yeah.
Because I mean, going out, you're going to the unknown, so you don't know what's going to happen.
I think the risk is obviously the economy. I think that's obviously a risk for a lot of people, especially my generation. You know, if we do leave, there's going to be a gap of 4 or 5 years, which if you're retired, it's not a massive issue. But for someone that's working now, that 4 or 5 years, it's a lot of uncertainty. In the long term, I think being the 5th biggest economy in the world, I think we will survive. I think we may well flourish outside the EU. It's just whether it's weighing up the risks either side. At the moment, I think I've got 1 foot out. I think the general public are fed up of hearing about GDP and the economy, and I think most people actually it's what for their life. How can their life be made better? They're fed up of GDPs and inflation and whatnot. I think it will be very close. I think with the tragic shooting that's just happened, I think that will push a lot of. I think that may well swing things towards the stay camp. And if I was a betting man, I think it's going to be close. I think we'll end up staying. I'd like to see it. I think we'll flourish either way. I'd probably like to see us leave. I think we'll still be. I still think we'll have a lot of strength, negotiating abroad. I don't think people are going to stop trading here. I think we need to tighten our immigration system up. I think you need immigration. You need for a healthy economy. But if you're going to come, you need to buy into the system. And a lot of people are frustrated with that. You need to buy into the British culture. You've got to give something. So they do need to tighten up on that. But whether they, even if we leave, whether they'll be able to implement STEM immigration will be interesting. I think a lot of people are in my boat, very undecided. I don't really know. I don't really know what else to say. It's an interesting one, very interesting. I think it's the 24th, is it happening? The vote, is it on the 23rd? I think we'll probably end up staying, I would have thought. The shy Tory, a bit like the election. If we believed all the all the polls that the previous election, all the polls that came out before, they were saying it's going to be a Labour majority, and it was a Tory majority. So don't believe the opinion polls, because they're a load of rubbish.
Going to gain if they are here or not. So in my opinion, I think it would be better for the parliament to decide. But what can we say? So
democracy.
So it's democracy. So everybody have to say him or her mind. So in this wise, I haven't decided yet.
Yeah.
What do you think? You vote for stay or to leave?
No, I'll vote to leave.
Why?
Because I'm fed up with all the rules and regulations from the European Union. Yeah. So I think we'd be better off out of Europe.
Immigration or what?
The rest of Europe, as I see it, most of the Mediterranean countries are not very hard-working. They're very lazy people. So I think we'll be better off on our own. London is the most important capital city in the world, but I think the great British public at the last minute will panic and they will vote to stay in Europe. That's what I